Hello and welcome to the Wisdom of Sex. I'm your host, Dr. Wisdom, and today we're diving into a topic that's as complicated as it is important: the confused man, navigating modern masculinity and expectations. Let's face it, being a man today can feel like you're constantly walking a tightrope. You're told to be strong, but not too strong. Sensitive, but not too sensitive. Provide, but don't make her feel like she needs you. It's a balancing act, and the stakes feel higher than ever. But guess what? Women are just as confused by the mixed messages society throws at them. Be independent, but still want connection. Need no one, but want a partner. How do we make sense of these dynamics? And more importantly, how do we navigate them in a way that creates healthy, fulfilling relationships? That's what we're unpacking today. Let me share a personal story that highlights this confusion many women face, myself included. In my heart, I've always had this deep pull toward a more traditional role, one that reflects a 1950s housewife lifestyle. I envision staying at home, taking care of the kids, the house, and my husband while he works and provides for the family. It's not about being submissive, it's about creating a warm, nurturing home for my loved ones. Here's where it gets funny. One night, my friend and I went out, both of us single and ready to mingle. Well, that dates me, I'm sure. Anyway, we ended up meeting some guys, and during the conversation, the topic of feminism came up. I casually mentioned, I'm kind of old-fashioned. I'd like to take care of my man while he works. I enjoy cooking and cleaning. Now, let me tell you, I was just being honest about my personal preferences. But before I could even finish my thought, my friend jumped in. No, you don't. You're not old-fashioned. You're independent and feminist. Her comment completely caught me off guard. I had to pause and explain that, yes, I do consider myself a feminist, but my definition of feminism might be a little different. For me, feminism is about choice. It's about having the right to decide whether you want to pursue a high-powered career or be a stay-at-home mom, or any combination of the two. Her perspective, though, was that feminism is exclusively about independence, being free from needing a man, financially or otherwise. And while she's not entirely wrong, I felt like her definition was missing something important. Feminism, in my opinion, isn't about rejecting traditional roles. It's about creating the freedom to choose the life that resonates with you, whatever that looks like. This moment taught me something. If she and I have different ideas of what it means to be a woman today, men must be confused as well. Where do they fit in women's lives? Are they providers? Are they supporters? Well, let's start with the basics. Where are these mixed signals coming from? For decades, men were seen as the providers and protectors. It's in their DNA to take care of their families, hunt for food, or at least metaphorically hunt by being the breadwinner, and protect their loved ones. But modern gender roles have evolved. Women have fought, and rightfully so, for independence, for equality, and for a life where they aren't required to depend on a man for survival. And this is a good thing. But here's where it gets tricky. While society has done a great job of telling women they don't need a man, it hasn't been as clear about what it means to need a man, or need a woman for that matter. It often comes up in conversations about modern relationships, and I think it's worth examining. Let's take a moment to unpack this term, because there's a deeper truth here that often gets overlooked. Some people recoil at the idea of needing someone else. For many, it conjures up images of dependency, weakness, or losing independence. But let me challenge that perspective. Needing someone doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. We are wired for connection. As much as society emphasizes independence, and that's a good thing, it can't replace the comfort, intimacy, and emotional connection we find in relationships. Needing someone doesn't mean you can't survive on your own. It doesn't mean you can't pay your bills or make important decisions independently. It means recognizing that inherently, humans are social creatures. We don't just want connection, we need it. We need the companionship of a partner to feel seen and understood. We need the emotional intimacy that comes from being able to be vulnerable with someone. We need the comfort of knowing someone has our back, not financially, but emotionally and spiritually. And this isn't one-sided. Men need women, and women need men, or whatever your partnership looks like. It's not about dependency, it's about complementing each other. Men and women often bring different strengths to relationships. That's not a bad thing. It's what makes partnerships dynamic and fulfilling. So the next time someone says, I don't need a man or I don't need a woman, I'd encourage them to think beyond financial or material independence. Yes, you might not need someone to pay your bills or solve your problems, but needing someone for emotional connection, for intimacy, for partnership, that's not a sign of weakness. That's a sign of being human. At the end of the day, we're not meant to navigate life alone. And that's not weakness. It's one of our greatest strengths. Let's normalize the idea that needing each other isn't a failure of independence. It's a fundamental truth about what it means to be human. And when we embrace that, we open the door to deeper, more authentic relationships. Let's dive deeper into the male perspective because for many men today, navigating relationships feels like walking a tightrope blindfolded. Men are finding themselves stuck in a kind of no man's land. And yes, pun intended. They want to show up as providers, protectors, and partners, but the societal shifts in gender roles have left them unsure of where they stand. Imagine this scenario. A man goes on a first date. He wants to make a good impression, so he plans to be a gentleman. He wants to open the door, pull out her chair, and maybe pay for dinner. It's not about control, it's about showing he cares. It's how he's been taught to demonstrate respect and interest. But then, as the night unfolds, his date insists, I've got this, I can pay my own way. She's making it clear that she's independent, self-sufficient, and doesn't need anyone to take care of her. Her independence is admirable, and for many men, even attractive. But it also leaves him with a lingering question. If she doesn't need me to do these things, what role am I supposed to play in her life? Now flip the script. She talks about her independence throughout the evening, how she lives alone, handles her finances, and doesn't need anyone to take care of her. He's listening, impressed, and processing. Then the bill arrives. She looks at him expectantly as if to say, well, are you going to take care of this? From the man's perspective, this feels contradictory. On one hand, she's saying she doesn't need anyone, yet in this moment, there's an unspoken expectation for him to step up. It leaves him wondering, am I supposed to be the provider or not? It's not that he minds paying, most men are happy to. It's the inconsistency that throws him off. But this confusion isn't only financial, it's about emotional dynamics too. Men are being told, we want you to be more emotionally open. Society is encouraging them to share their feelings, talk about their struggles, and embrace vulnerability, and many men are trying. But when they do, some encounter responses like, don't be such a baby, or man up, you're supposed to be the strong one. Even worse, the woman silently criticizes him for being too emotional. This creates a double bind. Men are left wondering, how much vulnerability is too much? They want to connect emotionally but worry about being judged or labeled as too soft for expressing their feelings. The same man who's praised for being stoic and strong might also be criticized for being emotionally unavailable. It's confusing and frustrating. A man might ask himself, you want me to show feelings, but not too many. You want me to be strong, but not distant. How do I find that balance? It's like trying to play a game with no rule book, or worse, a rule book that keeps changing. There's also a deeper, almost instinctual layer to this confusion. For generations, men have been biologically and socially wired to be providers and protectors. It's part of their DNA to want to take care of their families, contribute, and feel like they're adding value to their relationships. When those traditional roles are dismissed as outdated, it can feel destabilizing. If the old rules no longer apply, men are left asking themselves, what's my role now? At the same time, society is shifting to emphasize equality and partnership, which is a positive thing. But in the process, the pendulum has swung so far that the inherent strengths men bring to relationships, like their desire to provide, protect, and lead in certain ways, can feel undervalued or even unwelcome. The phrase, what do you bring to the table, comes up more and more nowadays. This isn't just a logistical issue, it's an emotional one. Many men feel a deep sense of displacement. They're trying to adapt to a world where their contributions are viewed through a different lens, but they're not always sure how to pivot. Some men internalize this confusion as inadequacy, thinking, if she doesn't need me, What am I even doing here? And this question isn't just about physical needs like money or protection, it's about emotional needs too. Men want to feel like they bring value to their partner's life, whether through support, companionship, or care. When that sense of purpose feels unclear, it can lead to frustration, withdrawal, and a sense of emotional detachment. And ironically, this can create the very emotional unavailability that women often critique in men. Even worse, some men have given up on dating or being in serious relationships because of this confusion. Why be with a woman who doesn't need him? Why be with a woman who has double standards? Why be with a woman who thinks you need her more than she needs you? Okay, let's flip the script and take a deeper look at this from the woman's perspective. Women today are encouraged to be strong, independent, and capable of managing everything: career, family, and life's myriad challenges. This is an empowering message rooted in decades of hard-won progress for women's rights and gender equality. But this independence, while vital and liberating, often comes with an invisible cost. When a woman presents herself as someone who doesn't need a man, it's often more than just a statement of fact. It's a defense mechanism. It says, "I can survive without you. I am self-reliant." This declaration is both a shield and a badge of honor. It protects her from being perceived as vulnerable or dependent, qualities that society historically used to diminish women. But it also proudly affirms that she's worked hard to build a life she can sustain on her own terms. However, as empowering as this stance can be, it can also unintentionally send the wrong message to potential partners. When a man hears, "I don't need a man," it can feel like there's no space for him in her life, no role for him to fulfill. Men, much like women, want to feel like they bring something valuable to a relationship, whether that's emotional support, companionship, or practical contributions. When that space feels closed off, even unintentionally, it can create confusion and tension. Back to the first date, a woman shares her story, not in the explicit terms of independence, but in subtle ways. She talks about her high-powered job, how much she works, how she has her own place, and how she doesn't need anything from anyone. On the surface, she's presenting herself as someone who has it all together, someone who is self-reliant and capable. Some men may find this inspiring and attractive. Others may feel unsure of how they could possibly fit into her life. She wonders why she never gets second dates. She knows she's beautiful, intelligent, and a strong woman. She's a total catch. She tells herself men find her intimidating. She's too good for them anyway. It's their loss. But deep down, another story unfolds, one she doesn't often share. Beneath the surface, she's lonely. She wants more than a career and a perfectly decorated apartment. She wants a partner. She likes the idea of having someone in her life, a man who's strong, someone she can lean on when things get overwhelming, a man who could take the lead at times, who could make decisions, and who could give her the freedom to relax and just be. But society doesn't want her to feel this way. Society tells her she needs to announce that she is a lioness, a queen, independent. But on dates, she shies away from telling the man the truth. The reality is she just wants to be taken care of. She doesn't want 50-50, she wants 60-40. She wants the man to be the king. But declaring this need would be weak, a step backward, and in her mind, puts feminism back 50 years. So she sits at home swiping right, swiping left, and being alone. This is the silent struggle for many women who feel caught between societal expectations and their own hearts. They are not weak for wanting connection, nor are they less feminist for desiring a partnership where they feel supported. It's a deeply human desire, and it deserves to be spoken aloud without shame. Here's where the situation becomes more complex. While independence is often celebrated, and rightly so, it can sometimes overshadow the innate human need for connection and partnership. Deep down, most people, regardless of gender, want to feel needed. It's not about dependence in the traditional sense. It's about feeling valued, appreciated, and integral to someone else's life. For women, balancing these needs can feel like walking a tightrope. They're told to be fiercely independent and self-sufficient, but they're also human beings who crave intimacy, love, and partnership. Society, however, often frames these desires as contradictory. The narrative becomes, if you're strong and independent, you shouldn't need anyone. Wanting connection might make you appear weak. This creates an internal tug of war for many women. They want to show strength and resilience, but they also long for the emotional safety and companionship that comes with a healthy partnership. Acknowledging this duality doesn't diminish their independence, it highlights their humanity. Yet society rarely leaves room for women to embrace both sides without judgment. This dynamic often plays out in dating and relationships, as in our dating story. A woman might lead with her independence, emphasizing her accomplishments, her ability to handle life on her own, and her disinterest in needing anyone. To her, this is an expression of her strength and self-worth. But to a potential partner, it might come across as, I don't want or need you in my life. Ironically, the very qualities she's proud of, her independence and self-reliance, can inadvertently create distance in her relationships. This doesn't mean she's doing anything wrong. It's simply a reflection of the societal messages both men and women have internalized. These moments can feel contradictory to both parties, leaving men unsure of what's expected and women grappling with how to reconcile their independence with their desire for partnership. A client of mine had this very situation. She was the dating story I provided. Multiple dates, rarely second dates. When we talked about what she was looking for versus what she was expressing on her dates, it was a total oxymoron. I told her, a lion doesn't have to announce they're a lion. They will see you as independent by how you carry yourself. I told her not to put so much emphasis on her independence and to lead with what she likes and really wants and enjoys in life. And guess what? Within a week, she found a guy who was her total match. They have been dating for about a month now, and she feels so free. She let her guard down, was vulnerable on her dates, and is so happy. I watched a TikTok video recently from Man Cave POD. The men said men don't need a woman to cook and clean. They know how to cook and clean. Sex, cooking, and cleaning are appreciated, but they're not the foundation and not what's valued. They value women and need women to be there for them emotionally, bringing peace and support to them. This is what brings foundation to the relationship. Knowing you both have each other's backs, supporting one another, and giving peace of mind and respect. What's fascinating is that, despite societal emphasis on independence, humans are inherently interdependent creatures. We thrive on connection, collaboration, and shared purpose. Needing each other, whether emotionally, practically, or spiritually, is not a sign of weakness. It's a core part of what makes us human. When independence is overly emphasized at the expense of interdependence, it can leave both men and women feeling isolated. For women, the message can be, you're strong enough to do this alone, so you should. For men, it can be, if she doesn't need me, then I must not have anything to offer. Both narratives miss the bigger picture. Relationships aren't about needing someone to fill a void. They're about choosing to build a life together that's richer and more fulfilling than it could be alone. This is why interdependence matters. It's the sweet spot between independence and dependency, where both partners bring their strengths to the table while valuing what the other contributes. A woman's independence doesn't negate her desire for connection, and a man's desire to provide doesn't diminish his respect for her autonomy. So how do men and women navigate this confusing landscape of independence, connection, and mutual support? First, we must acknowledge that it's okay to want to feel needed. Wanting to be valued for what you bring to a relationship, whether it's emotional support, financial stability, or simply love, isn't a bad thing. Second, and as I've said multiple times in many episodes, communication is key. Women, it's okay to let a man know how he can contribute to your life. That doesn't make you any less independent. And men, it's okay to ask for clarity when you feel like you're not sure where you stand or where you fit in a woman's life. Balancing strength and vulnerability is another critical area where men often feel conflicted. Society increasingly encourages men to share their feelings, but the responses they receive aren't always consistent. Men who express vulnerability might hear, "Don't be so soft," while those who suppress emotions or don't know how to show empathy are now labeled narcissists. The key here is for men to redefine strength, understanding that it's not about always being stoic, but about showing up authentically. Being emotionally open doesn't mean losing stability, it means being resilient in facing life's challenges. For example, a man might say, "I'm feeling overwhelmed, but I'm working through it," demonstrating both vulnerability and strength. Women play a vital role in encouraging this balance by creating a safe space for men to express themselves without fear of judgment. A simple response like, "I really appreciate you sharing that with me," can go a long way in fostering trust and emotional intimacy. When men feel their openness is met with empathy rather than criticism, they are more likely to continue engaging in honest conversations. Another challenge in modern relationships is the feeling of being undervalued. Many men feel their traditional strengths, like providing or protecting, are overlooked, while women often feel their contributions, such as emotional labor or caregiving, are taken for granted. This disconnect can be bridged by mutual appreciation. A man might say, "I love how you balance everything and still make time for us," while a woman might acknowledge, "I appreciate how hard you work to support our family." Small, consistent acknowledgments like these can have a profound impact on a relationship's emotional foundation. Sharing roles can also help modern couples navigate evolving dynamics. For example, a man who traditionally handles finances might appreciate his partner taking the lead in budgeting. Similarly, a woman who takes on most of the household responsibilities might feel valued when her partner steps in to cook dinner or manage bedtime routines. These shifts aren't about rejecting traditional roles, they're about collaboration and mutual effort. It's also essential to embrace the humanity of relationships rather than striving for perfection. Both men and women should let go of rigid expectations and instead focus on showing up for each other as partners. Men don't always have to have it together, and women don't need to prove they can do it all. Relationships thrive when both people feel free to be their authentic selves, supported by empathy, communication, and a shared understanding of each other's needs. Lastly, we need to embrace the fact that men and women are biologically wired to bring different strengths to the table. Men are often wired to provide, protect, and take care of others. Women are often natural nurturers and connectors. These roles aren't weaknesses, they're complementary strengths. And when we stop trying to compete with each other and start working together, magic happens. At the end of the day, relationships aren't about who needs who more, they're about how we can support each other. Men and women aren't in competition. They're complements, each bringing unique strengths to the table. When we stop trying to fit into outdated molds and instead focus on connection, we unlock the true potential of partnership, one built on mutual respect, understanding, and a shared commitment to grow together. So the next time you're in a situation where you feel confused, whether you're a man wondering if you're doing too much or not enough, or a woman trying to balance independence with connection, just pause. Ask yourself, what do I want to give? What do I want to receive? Well, our time is up for this episode of The Wisdom of Sex. If you enjoyed today's episode, please review, subscribe, and share it. I'd love to hear your thoughts or stories, so feel free to reach out on social media or email me at drheatherwisdom@gmail.com and check out my website, drheatherwisdom.com. Don't forget my book, The Wisdom of Sex for Men, is available on Amazon. Until next time, be open, be curious, don't be rude, know your limits, and stay wise.